Welcome, everybody. My name is Alfredo. I am the COO and co-founder of Prosal. For those of you who aren't part of our community, Prosal is a platform and a business development community that makes it easy for agencies and consultants of all backgrounds and all sizes to find and win new clients from requests for proposals, or RFPs, as we affectionately like to call them. Prosal is the only platform that vets and shares high-quality RFPs and provides you with the resources and educational opportunities like this webinar to win those opportunities. Before Prosal, I was in the same position as many of you. I was the founder and the president of a digital communications agency that grew to a team of over a dozen staff. In launching Prosal and getting to know so many of you, one thing has stood out that won't come as a surprise to anyone. Business development is tough, and it's not always easy to get a return. Whether that return is a hard win or a soft win, like an interview feedback or even a new friend. And I get it, right? Like I felt this when I was applying to my first few RFPs and applying to my first few projects. And even after winning so many of them, I still felt intimidated in applying and following up and asking for feedback, especially when I didn't get the response that I wanted. And in talking to, and in hearing your requests and talking to so many of you and seeing this come out of the community, we put together these events as a response to those requests to improve your ability to lead a business and to compete for RFPs. And today we have a wonderful conversation in store from a close colleague and a friend of mine and of Prosal. We are joined by Jamie Mueller, who is the VP of Partnerships at FundraiseUp. FundraiseUp is an innovative web-based platform that makes it easy for nonprofits to accept donations and increase giving. Jamie's also the founder and the CEO of Collab Unity, a consultancy that helps growing for-profit and nonprofit organizations to start and scale their partnerships with external organizations, companies, and institutions. Jamie is a true partnerships expert. She brought Prosal and my old company into the partnerships fold when she was leading partnerships at her old employers. And today, Jamie is going to delve into the science and the art of partnerships. She's going to help you assess and understand what your current partnership relationship looks like. We're going to talk about ideal partnerships, and we're going to shed light on the power dynamics of partnerships. It's a lot of really interesting and fun topics, and I ask that you please hold your Q&A to the end, although feel free to drop it into the chat so we can save it and get to it as one of the first questions. We do have time saved at the end, about 10 minutes or so for Q&A. And if you do have to drop early because of a meeting or because something comes up, no worries. The session is being recorded. We are going to share the full recording on YouTube, and we'll send you a link via email as early as tomorrow. So without further ado, on to the main event. Please give a warm welcome to Jamie Mueller. Jamie?
Thank you so much, Alfredo, for the warm welcome. Thank you all for joining today. It's so good to see so many friendly faces, and then also some familiar ones too. So hello to everyone. I really appreciate it. I would really, I see some people said where they were from, but I also would love to know if you want to just drop in the chat if you're working as a solopreneur, as a freelancer, if you're working for a larger company, and if you're working, what kind of service or product you offer. Are you working in tech? Are you in consulting services? I'd love to get an idea of who's on the call today, because I can then tailor examples that I'm going to be giving to the type of work that you all are doing and the type of partnerships you might be looking for. So please feel free to drop those in the chat. It's always helpful. And while we're doing that, I'll just share a little bit more about me. Alfredo did an amazing introduction, probably better than I could do for myself, so I really do appreciate it. But yes, I am the VP of Partnerships at FundraiseUp, and we help nonprofits around the world engage with more donors and increase revenue with digital fundraising tools that have been shown to double conversion and integrate seamlessly with existing websites and tools, and also the founder of Collab Unity. And like Alfredo said, the goal of Collab Unity is to provide thought leadership and services to scaling companies who want to go from nice to have collaborations to unified and strategic partnerships. And so I do both of these things. But as far as my background, I actually started out as a social worker in the nonprofit space for about 10 years, advocating on the Hill for suicide prevention and mental health parity, and working at crisis hotlines and large federated organizations. And then I moved over into tech and absolutely fell in love with social good technology and how it was powering organizations' ability to achieve their missions and goals. Along the way, I became a twin mom. I also am a wife, and we live in Hillsborough, Virginia, which is about 2 hours outside of DC. I late in life have discovered that I like one cat, and have really, his name is Figaro, and I come home from business trips and say hello to him before I say hello to my husband, which I don't know what that says about our relationship, but he is my favorite cat in the world. I'm also a big fan of, and I would also love you to weigh in on the chat. Is it a GIF or a GIF? But either way, I really like them. It is a way of expressing myself. And so you'll see some of those in here. I'm also a coffee lover, not because I'm any type of coffee connoisseur, but because it keeps me awake and going. So it can be diesel fuel or the best roast in the world, and I won't probably notice, except unless I am kept up by it. And obviously, I love connecting people. And I will be perfectly frank. I am not an MBA major. I did not grow up in channel partnerships. I fell into channel partnerships because what I have discovered over time is that it is much easier, more effective, cost-effective, and more fun to do business inside an ecosystem than alone. And that is what I have been working on perfecting throughout my career, is how do you help people connect to each other and help connect people to the resources and experiences they need that are going to strengthen their business in order to strengthen my own business. And so it isn't a total selfish act or selfless act that I am connecting people to each other, but it certainly is one that feels good and I have found to be the most successful. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how do we talk about partnerships in a natural way and in a way that just kind of makes sense. And thank you to Jen. Hello, Jen, again. I know you, and thank you, Gabriella. I appreciate it for filling in on the work that you do. I appreciate that and can definitely speak to some of the things that you're doing. So thanks for filling it in. So today we're going to be talking about type of partnerships, how to create and leverage an ideal partner profile, and how to ensure balanced and mutually beneficial partnerships. And these three things are really key things to discuss and to get right prior to going into partnership relationships. However, if you've already dipped your toe into partnerships, that's totally fine. And I'm hoping that this discussion today leads to ways that you all can strengthen, deepen, fine-tune or iterate on those partnerships in ways that are much more beneficial to you as well. And here's the deal, right, is that partnership building is like creating art. We can all do it. We probably do it every day of our lives and don't even know it. You have personal partnerships, you have business partnerships, and they're internal, external. You have friendships that could be considered partnerships, especially if you're a parent. You probably have parent partnerships. I know that I've been digging into my parent partnerships lately, as I'm doing a lot more traveling these days to find people to carpool and to pick up my kids from school every once in a while and whatnot. So we're all doing partnering on a regular basis, but just like we do art, we doodle on the side of a paper, we sing in the shower, maybe we color in a coloring book with our kids. That's all built making art, right? But there's a big difference between a doodle and the Mona Lisa. And there's a big difference between having partnerships that are built with no strategy and those that deploy a technique and commit to certain best practices that when building partnerships. And the difference is do they stand the test of time and are they of high quality and value? So in order to build partnerships that are going to be sustainable and that you're going to see a return on investment for a long period of time, you really do need to be using some critical techniques and some best practices and to be designing your program around those things in order to see that success. Otherwise, what you're going to find is that you're building what we like to call nice to have partnership or imbalanced partnerships that don't end up getting you very far and that you're ending up cycling through on a regular basis and burning everybody out, including your ecosystem. But to back up just a second, what is a partnership? So I kind of mentioned it before, but what we're talking about today aren't the friendships, aren't the parent relationships, aren't the internal partnerships that you're building between teams, but B2B business partnerships. And I actually was talking to my friend Tim Lockey yesterday with the Human Stack about partnerships and how it seems like, especially in the social good space, we have trouble really gaining traction around partnerships. And one reason is that I don't think that we're defining or thinking about partnerships in the right way. A lot of times when we're thinking about it, especially in the social good space, we're sometimes thinking about it from a standpoint of we have the same values or we have a similar mission or we're like-minded or we go after the same donors or we follow in the same circles or services. However, that's not what a business partnership is supposed to be about. A business partnership is a collaborative relationship that helps you both win in the market. And that can be by increasing the value, leveraging each other's strengths, exchanging resources, going after the same customer base together because it's going to be more effective. And so instead of looking for partners that you feel really good about working with and that seem to get you, you need to be looking for partners that are going to provide additional value to you and you're going to provide additional value to them. And that is hard because there are going to be people that you really like that are not going to be your best business partners. And that's okay. There's still a role for them to play, but are you spending more time on them than you are on the ones that are going to help you bring value to the market? And that's a question you have to really ask yourself and evaluate as we go through this. Why are partnerships important? I know you've heard 1 + 1 = 3. But for some reason, it's still really hard for us to get our brains around this and to commit to this fundamental truth, right? When you are a solopreneur or a one-man show inside of a company and you're going out trying to find business, you're going, you do your hour pitch, right? Or you send out 3 RFPs in a month. You're getting 3 potential clients, which is equal to 3 opportunities to acquire business. However, if you're that same solopreneur and you're meeting with 3 vendors or 3 agencies or 3 companies that are larger than yours or have a market you want to go into, and they each have X number of customers available to them to introduce to you, then you've just expanded your opportunity count 3-fold, 10-fold, right? And we forget this. And why don't we do this more? Because in some cases it's harder. And in other cases, we don't have this motion inside of our companies. We are used to direct selling. We are used to going one-to-one. It's a different strategy. There is some level of relinquishing control because you're going through a channel, not through you personally. And in addition to it, sometimes it takes longer to get that machine up and running. And that can be very difficult, especially if you're after quarterly goals or on a quarterly cycle. So you really do need to start this and plan for this so that, that same thing that we always hear, go slow to go fast, right? You do need to do some initial planning. And if you do that, you're going to see the fruits of your labor come a lot quicker to the table, and those returns on investment are going to start to flow a lot quicker. There's other reasons to be looking at partnerships. So not only are you using the 1 + 1 = 3, but in addition to that, holy moly, do conversions go faster. And here's the reason for that. If you have been studying the buyer's journey lately, then I know you've seen not only in the consumer buyer's journey, but the B2B buyer's journey, that buyers are coming to the company they need to buy from very late into the process. And I mean, let's just be honest, as consumers in general, what do you do when you're going to go out and buy a new piece of software or you're looking for a consultant? You ask your friends, you ask your current vendors, you go on G2 and Capterra and do your research. You look on the internet, you search Google reviews, you do all these things before you ever talk to a salesperson inside a company, right? So the more that you are influencing the pre-sales or, the market or ecosystem that is touching your potential customer before they call in or inbound into you, the more likely you are going to see a faster conversion, because 9 times out of 10, if you are influencing that ecosystem, the conversation goes like this. Hi, I talked to XYZ. They told me I should buy your product. How do I buy your product? And then it is up to you to actually get them the product. And if you can't do that, then I can't help you. Right? So conversions happen a lot faster. At my old company, we saw that we had the best win rate, and we had our age by qualified lead to when we closed a deal was less than 30 days, whereas with any other of our channels, our marketing, inbound, BDRs, etc., we were seeing 45 to 90 days minimum. And so it really shortens the time to close. It increases the value and stickiness when you partner. So I was thinking about what example could I give, and I actually was thinking about, I have debit cards that the kids have, and they help the kids save money, use a checking account, etc. And they also help them invest in stock. But what's interesting is in the app, the stock investment service is run by an entirely different company. But because they are melded together and they're integrated together, it has made them 10 times stickier. I have money going straight from their checking account into their investment account every month. The investment account is reporting out through the app that is the checking account. And so everything's interconnected, and it makes both services much stickier and easier to use for the consumer. Higher contract values, it is a lot easier and to get people to buy things where they have confidence that they're going to be able to use them. And this, I cannot tell you how important it is to have service partners involved in co-selling, especially if you are a vendor or if you are a consultant. You have a great opportunity to co-sell alongside software vendors. And here's the reason. When somebody is buying software, they are not going to try and buy things that they don't think they're going to be able to use. That's where they're going to penny pinch. But if you are a service provider who can come in and say, actually, I can help you get that up and running. I've actually seen people get a lot of value out of that. I think you could see a stronger return on investment if you invested in X, Y, or Z on top of that basic structure that you're going to be purchasing today. You're going to see that those clients feel a lot more confident in making that additional investment, which makes you much more valuable to those vendor partners that you're working with, and hopefully also increases the amount of work that you're getting from that client as well to do. Less paid marketing, word of mouth marketing is key. Influencers, creators, they are running the show right now. So the more people that you have talking you up and saying your name, the better. And you're also getting more qualified leads. Your partners can tell before they even introduce you whether or not their client, their customer is going to be a good fit for your service or product. They don't want to, they're staking their reputation on how well you can service, how well a partner can service them, how well you can service them. And they're not going to be sending people to you that they don't think are going to be able to benefit from your service. No one wants to throw somebody to a salesperson unless they're sure that that is going to be the experience that that person needs. So you eliminate the number of disqualifications you have to do in the process. So for all of these things, and this isn't just one company, but anyone that works in partnerships can provide this value if given the opportunity. It's just about making sure that you are doing some certain things that we're going to talk about that are going to help you put things in place that are going to help you see that stickiness, that higher contract value, and those more qualified leads. Okay, so the question is why aren't more people doing this? If it's so great, why are we not seeing people actually develop these partnerships? Why is it so darn hard? This is a busy slide. I am going to share these slides so that you have this, but as you can see, we're moving from nice collaborations to unified partners. And when people start working in partnerships, leadership usually says, let's dip our toe in. Let's not put too much effort into this. Let's see where it goes. They become very reactive. Oh, this person wants to do a webinar with me. Oh, this person is willing to send us customers because, you know, they're interested in our services. But there's no strategy behind it. There's no skin in the game on both sides. And what happens is that these partnerships peter out. They're transactional or they're imbalanced, where one side is getting more out of the partnership than the other side is. And eventually, if you're not getting any value and you're providing value, why would you stick around and do it? It's not good business sense. And eventually pressure starts to pull that partner that's feeling that inequity away from you. And so what happens is that you have all these fits and starts, and leadership starts to doubt that partnerships are the way to go. Especially with the fact that if your leadership needs to see quarterly returns on their investments, and you're having all these fits and starts and not seeing any traction and not seeing exponential growth, they're going to start to look at other ways they can see that fast return. And usually that ends up being through direct sales or more marketing, more paid marketing. But in fact, that actually ends up costing them a lot more when instead you focus on looking and valuing and spending your time on strategic alliances and unified partnerships instead. So where you invest time matters. Where people usually invest time are building these nice to have collaborations and imbalanced partnerships. And then they lack the ability to spend time in building strategic alliances and unified partnerships. And when I say strategic alliances, I'm referring to you have a strategy that both parties are in agreement on and are moving towards, and both sides are benefiting from those strategic objectives. Unified partners have even more skin in the game. They are working together in ways that are going to boost their businesses. They're sharing revenue. They might be sharing some back office support. They're like one step away from merger, acquisition, things of that nature. So instead, this is what it should look like when you're starting partnerships. Go slow to move fast. Start with quality over quantity. Find one or two great partners and invest 80% of your time developing those partnerships. And what will happen is you'll start to disqualify those partners from these two right-handed categories, and they'll start to trickle into the 20%. And that could be like affiliate marketing, thought leadership webinars, advisorship roles, things like that, things that aren't bringing a ton of revenue necessarily or value, or that you're doing a regular, cadence of interactions with, but they want to be in your atmosphere and in your ecosystem. They just don't want to be they don't want to be at a strategic or unified partnership level, and that's okay. But then at least you are spending less of your time on them, and you are spending more of your time where it really matters and where you're going to see the most benefit. So go from that tip of the spear to the larger funnel than the other way around, which most people start with. So how do we get there? I'm going to walk through these steps or these focus areas and one by one. But the bottom line is there are things that you need to do before you start to approach people and partner. And when people are approaching you, because that might be happening as well, and they want to partner, these are the things that you need to be asking them that if they have, and vetting as part of your due diligence. Otherwise, you could end up wasting a lot of your time by being reactive to people that are asking you to partner with them. And this is something that I do with every partner, is I want to make sure that they have a strategy. They have a why they're reaching out, not just because we have a great brand name or we have a common customer, but why specifically do you want to develop a partnership with us? They have to have skin in the game, and they have to know this. They have to know, what does your customer need and what are your strengths? And probably more importantly, what are your weaknesses when meeting customer demands? And how can FundraiseUp, for instance, fill those areas of weakness and strengthen your market? They need to need us. And then we need to understand how we need them. And if they can't articulate that, then our partnership is pretty much at a stop right there, because we have to understand why we're doing this, why we're getting in business together. And this might sound very similar to the way you approach customers, because it is, right? Your customer has to have a pain point, and you have to have an opportunity to fill it. The same goes for your partnerships as well. So this is the first step. You need to sit back and think, what are we good at and what are we not good at? What do we not want to build or buy? And do we have motivation inside our company to fix that through a partnership? This is probably the most important thing to do. After you get that sorted out, if you do nothing else, please do this. And first of all, make sure you have it for your customers, an ideal customer profile, also known as an ICP. But the second thing but then when you're going for partners, have an IPP for each type of partner. So if you're a service provider, you offer consulting services, maybe you have an IPP for your tech partners, an IPP for other service partners. Maybe you have an IPP for thought leaders that you want to engage with, or sponsors. You need to know everything you possibly can about them and market to them and recruit them with that critical IPP in mind. So we get a lot of partners that come to us and we don't have the same customer profiles, or they offer a product that could be seen to be in competition with ours. And that's something we have to figure out. Is there enough there? Is there enough that we can fill as far as a weakness that actually puts us out of competition and more into collaboration territory? Do we have overlapping ecosystems? Do they have a vertical that we want to enter into that we could leverage? Is there trust? Is there accountability there? And what does that look like when it's given to us? And what are we going, and how are we going to need to show up with accountability and benefits for this partner? Do we have that available to us as well? So these are all the questions we need to ask. And at the end, I actually am going to share a Notion document with a list of these questions for you as well, so that you can kind of go through them at your leisure with your team. So here's the other one. Be prepared to invest, right? Like I said, if you, this is called the seesaw test. So I'm sure in your brain, you have like this amazing partner that just seems to have it all together, but they're huge. And you're just like, man, I would love to get in with X, Y, or Z partner. I'd love to be one of their partners. I'd love to get their customer base, get referred to them. Super. They're probably the Bart Simpson in the situation, sitting on the seesaw on the bottom. They're the heavyweight. They're not Mr. Burns that seems to only be as heavy as his keys and his clothes. And that might be you or feel like you. That's not going to be a partnership that's going to last. You have got to do your homework and figure out, how am I going to create more equity in this partnership? How am I going to create more balance on this seesaw so that we're each benefiting? We're each going up and down. We're each having fun on the seesaw. Is it that they need access to the type of services I offer because they don't offer them internally? Is it that they are trying to get into a new vertical and that's my vertical? What is it that you have to offer that's going to equal this seesaw out? And it's not always something that's money driven. It's not always something that is apparent right away. Sometimes you have to have those discovery conversations with those partners to understand where are they in need of support and what do you have to offer. All right, and here it is. You got the partner. Let's say you got that heavyweight partner. The seesaw is balanced. You're like, yay, they like me. They need me. I'm excited. I'm in. Then you wait for the introductions. You wait for the opportunities to work on an RFP together. And crickets. Why? They're busy running their own businesses and they're not there to sell yours. So how do you make it easier? You have got to provide your partners with the tools they need to be able to sell your business alongside theirs. I always think of, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. I'm one of those weirdos that listens to them to fall asleep at night. And it never fails that somebody's talking about Shopify. And I am not affiliated with Shopify. I don't get any money from Shopify, but they're just in my brain probably because like I'm falling asleep and listening to Shopify commercials. But I love how Shopify does it. They have an affiliate link, it's whatever Shopify / whatever podcast name, that's the affiliate link, right? But when they give the podcast host the script, it is always in relation to something that's going on with the podcast. The podcast will say, we opened a store and it's great and we have new merch and we did it on Shopify and da-da-da-da-da, and Shopify so easy and you should be on Shopify and here's how you get into Shopify and here's how much it costs. It's in relation to the conversation that they are naturally having with their audience, and that is in the process of not only selling Shopify, but also selling the podcast's merch or whatever the case may be. You need to be thinking like that. How do you co-sell with your partner when you're not in the room? What do you give to the BDRs? What do you give to the account executives? What snippets can you provide to people in other companies to provide for RFP context that they could just drop in to a proposal? Make it easy for your partners to partner with you and you will start to see success come. Right. Lastly, it's all about the relationships, and it's not necessarily about the relationship with you. Ecosystems are stronger when everybody in the ecosystem is stronger. So listen out to your partner. Listen to your partners when they're saying, oh, I'm really having trouble finding, an employee with this type of talent, or a customer says to you, gosh, I'm going to have to go look for a new CRM. If it's not in your bailiwick, if that's not what you do, fine. But if you know another partner that does that, make sure you make that introduction. Or if you can help that customer by saying, hey, I actually heard that X, Y, or Z technology might be a really good fit. I don't know anything about it, but you might want to look into it. I hear it's an up and coming, vendor. You are strengthening the ecosystem around you. And by doing so, it's going to strengthen your partnerships in the long run. I always think of, I don't know if you watched Miracle on 31st Street or 35th Street. Oh, I've watched it a lot. Okay. But there's that scene in the old one. I don't think the new one does this, but the old one, Santa tells a lady in line that she could get something cheaper at Gimbel's instead of Macy's. And the woman walks away going, what just happened? And then she goes up to the manager and says, this is amazing. You're putting the customer first. This is fabulous. I'm always going to shop at Macy's from now on. And that's exactly what you're doing. When you provide that type of service to your customers and your other partners, it comes back to you tenfold. All right, I'm going to wrap up with this, types of partners, just to give you some ideas, and then I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions as well, because I know that there's some in the chat. So these are some ideas for how you can partner. There's marketing partnerships. You have co-marketing partnerships, right? So what Alfredo and I are doing today, you can consider a co-marketing partnership. I'm marketing myself, and I'm helping Prosal market their services as well. And it can be more transactional, or it can be ongoing. It depends on what you're in need of and what your partners are in need of. Affiliate partnerships. You recruit others to sell your SaaS or your services, and they usually get a referral fee in return. Now, you need to be careful here, because everyone thinks that the referral fee is the answer to everything. Oh, I'll give you 10% commission on, the first year, or I'll do this or that. I'll say many people, especially in the nonprofit world, don't want a referral fee. And so that's why it's important not to make that assumption off the bat, and to really talk to your partners about what is it that would be an incentive for you to introduce me to others. Maybe it is that they want more co-marketing with you. So co-marketing partnerships can also serve as a benefit. Maybe it's that they want to be triaged first in your support queue if you're a SaaS vendor. So also, as we were talking about earlier, when you're talking about your strategy for partnering, also think about, what do you need from your partners? Because those end up being those benefits that you're really looking for, and that you should be able to articulate. Sales partnerships, these come in a variety of forms. Co-selling is a very great thing to do. It requires that you have a very strong relationship with not only the partner team you're working with, but also the sales teams you're working with. Resellers can be great. That's where, you're offering a service, and in addition to it, you're reselling a product as well at the same time. Managed service providers are usually people that are coming in after a service has been implemented and supporting that service or supporting that software so it gets the most value over a long period of time. And referral partners, same as affiliate, but usually goes a little bit deeper. Then you have your tech partnerships, your independent software vendors, right? Zoom and Dropbox have an integration. IBM and Salesforce have an integration. Integrations create stickiness. And they also create a natural path to referral, right? You have somebody that has a CRM, let's take HubSpot, for instance. They have an app marketplace. That app marketplace is full of people that have built products that integrate in with HubSpot. And because that is a natural place to go, because the integration is already set up, it makes it easy for that customer to find a product that is in partnership with HubSpot. So those integrations are key to building out strong, everlasting, sustainable partnerships that can feed your company and other companies for years to come. And then service partnerships. Service partnerships are amazing opportunities to expand your business and another person's business just by looking at how you can meld your two services together or your service and your product together. I would love to see more of this, especially in the consulting space. We tend to think that we tend to get very territorial when we have access to a proposal. However, there are so many opportunities to look at how can I stand out from the crowd, stand out from the competition by partnering with another service provider that offers an adjacent service that brings more value to the table. You can't do this when you get a proposal, though. You have to do this ahead of time, right? It's too late when you get the proposal. You all are under the gun. It's urgent. It's reactive. Sit down with potential partners and do some human-centered design thinking around how could we work together? What product could we bring to the table together the next time we get a proposal like this? And here's the great thing about Prosal is that look through there for the type of proposals you would like to go after and sit down with your partner and use it as an example and say, okay, how could we respond to this together? What kind of pricing structure would we need to put forward? What would the terms be? Work through all that with one of those examples so that the next time one of those comes up, y'all are ready to go. And so the bank of proposals that Prosal has available to everyone is an amazing opportunity to workshop some of that out before the next opportunity comes your way. Okay, so summarizing it up, right? Quality over quantity. Document and share early wins with others so that they build excitement and momentum. That's usually inside your company, but you should also be doing it with partners. Hey, between us, we sent each other X number of referrals this past month. How is that working out for you? That's pretty great. How many inbounds do you usually get? Okay, so we just increased your inbounds by 50%. How can we do more of that next quarter? Make it easy for your partner to sell to others and ensure there's equitable value. So I'm going to put in the chat the assessment an assessment that you can take that I've created through Collab Unity. I might need some more time depending on how many I get to process those assessments. So don't hold me to my one business day promise if you don't mind, but I will email you and let you know when to expect it. And I'm happy to talk to you about it more. And then I'll also give you that template for the IPP so that you all can work through that. And if you do have a team, I highly recommend doing it as a team. It's a great workshop a great opportunity to workshop it and challenge each other on your thinking and the way that you all are going about approaching potential partners. So I'll drop those in and look forward to any questions that you might have.
Amazing, Jamie. This was awesome. I've also never seen such brilliant use of GIFs in a presentation. Really, like, just kudos. Yeah, this was absolutely incredible. And I want to open it up. We have about 12 minutes, a little bit over 10 minutes, for any questions that folks have. So if anyone wants to jump in, raise their hand. It's a small group, so you can take yourself off mute and ask a question. Please feel free to do so. If folks are thinking about their question, Jen, I saw you come off camera. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, definitely. So one of my roles over at DNL is not only the full sales life cycle, but also responding to these RFPs, right? And one of the things I found is that a lot of these RFPs are really detailed in when it comes to the technical assessment or choosing a platform, right? So one of the things I've wanted to do is try to figure out what a partnership would look like for, responding to those RFPs and choosing who to bring in, and what organization would work best, but also still not knowing the full inner workings of the organization yet, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a weird fine line there. And then also too, along with their procurement, bringing in two organizations can sometimes be funky with that, but sometimes that's just what the solution is, right? So during the initial process of the RFP and the questions aspect, how could you go about approaching that with the organization that you want to bring someone else in if they're open to it, and walking through what that process might look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, yeah, I mean, and I think Alfredo will also say that there's some coaching that needs to be done around developing RFPs, because it is really hard to make any assumptions on what type of technology is going to work best for an organization before you're in there and doing it, right? And I think just like we're telling nonprofits to be more opinionated on how they're responding to grants, I think that there is something to be said for being a little bit opinionated on how you're responding back to RFPs. However, just to kind of go back to your question, I think, again, it is about looking as unified as possible in your approach. What really starts to sway people's ruin people's confidence, or starts to cause objections within organizations when they're looking at possibly bringing in two vendors or two services versus one, is when there doesn't seem to be lockstep between the two service providers. So it's really helpful, one, to have a primary and a secondary. So one person is going to take lead on billing, on responses. There's a clear delineation of standard operating procedures and how you two are, and SLAs, and how you two are going to function. And then when you're talking to the customer, it needs to be very smooth, with very clear understanding of who's doing what and why this is going to produce more value than if one of you was coming alone to the table. And what I've seen is that a lot of times when that is done and done well, the end customer ends up seeing that type of value and experience. And really what it comes down to is contractual terms, like you said, Jen, and sometimes that can't really be helped depending on their situation internally. But at least you're able to start that conversation on a really strong note, and there's not a lot of like, oh, what do you think? Or, oh, do you do that? Or a lot of pauses and hesitations during the call where you all are trying to pick up on each other's cues.
Gotcha. No, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Jamie, thank you for this. I'm curious to hear if you have any thoughts. So I've been in a position where like sometimes I'll find this very like particular RFP and like what they're looking for, like I can't like really find someone like within my immediate circle. So I've actually like created partnerships on the fly where I'm like, hey, this RFP is like due next week. Like we don't really know much about each other, but like we'll get to know each other. So so I'm curious to hear if you have like any thoughts on like how to like almost like prep that network and have them almost like on standby if those RFP opportunities do present themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say is spend a little bit of time going through tools like Prosal and finding ideal RFPs. And I believe, Alfredo, you can look historically, if I'm not mistaken, on RFPs that have like already passed deadline. And what I would do is look at, Gabriella, those that you're like, wow, I would like to do that, but I would definitely need somebody to partner with on that. Look through those and figure out what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, what can you do, what are you looking for? And then build out that IPP. I would want to be the primary on this, or I work fixed rate. I need somebody else that works fixed rate, or blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And then start having networking calls get on LinkedIn, find people that offer those services, and just have calls with them and say, are you taking any clients? Would you be open to a conversation if an RFP came up? And start building out that network, and even use a spreadsheet and start categorizing your ecosystem. This person works with Salesforce CRMs. This person does change management consulting. This person does this. But the thing that you really need to spend time doing is making sure you understand what you do well and what you're looking for, and what are the terms of your agreement with these people, so that when it comes time and that RFP comes up and it's a 10-day rush to get to the finish line, you all aren't trying to figure that out on the back end. And so it's kind of the same thing I said to Jen, is this is about being more proactive about building your ecosystem than being reactive. And if you can do that, you're going to see a lot less transactions. And honestly, and I can say this from experience, you're going to be spending a lot more time, you're going to waste a lot more time trying to find that ideal partner at the last second, when you could have done it, a month before, when you had no RFPs in queue.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Jamie, I'm gonna offer one last question before we close out. And I think all of this really focus on building and scaling partnerships, and there's so much valuable information. I'm sure there's folks here, and Prosal is now one of them, where we're getting into like year 2, year 3 of partnerships. There's probably folks like on year 10 of partnerships. How do you maintain the health and the productivity of a long-term partnership or alliance to last that long and beyond that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alfredo. And so it's really about establishing great expectations from the beginning with your partners about how you all want to work together, and maintaining that understanding about what each of you is bringing to the table, and then checking in on how well you two are delivering, or 3 or however many partners you have involved, how you all are delivering against those expectations and those deliverables for each other. So I do recommend what you would call like a quarterly business review or quarterly check-in with your partners, and having, these are the action items, these are the things we want to do together. And a report out of what you have accomplished together. Because it's really important, because this is not day-to-day business sometimes, to remind people, this is the value Prosal has brought to the table. This is the value you've brought to the table. This is what we've accomplished together. And keeping that front and center, along with, this is our vision for the future of our partnership, and continuing to grow and have those conversations every quarter for the long haul, keeping that cadence up. It is a maintenance activity that has to be done. And also having some lines of open communication is really helpful. So having channels, Slack channels together, having ongoing emails or listservs or whatever the case may be, where you all can tag team each other very easily to say, hey, we just put something on LinkedIn. Alfredo, we'd love for you to comment on it. It's those little things that you do that are extra that help keep that relationship and that partnership going.
Amazing. Jamie, this has been so helpful. I know you have a hard stop at 1. So I'm going to be mindful of that. Thank you so much for all of this. I think this has been incredibly valuable. For everyone that attended, thank you for attending. Jamie's email and LinkedIn are on the screen right now. We are going to be sharing these slides, all of these resources, and a recording of this webinar tomorrow to you and to everyone else that registered. If you have any questions and feedback, any suggestions, there is a survey after you log off from Zoom, and that you'll also be receiving tomorrow. Please take it. It helps us better inform these webinars and to build more out. I get the feeling there'll probably be a part 2 to this one, because there's a lot more I think that can come out of this. And then the last thing that I will say is for Jamie's point, there is a place to build partnerships on Prosal as well. We do have a Slack community. If you're not a part of it, send me a message. I'll make sure that you get on that. And one of the things that is coming in Prosal 2.0 is the ability for agencies and consultants to post their subcontracting projects directly on Prosal. as a type of RFP or as a type of proposal. So if you're looking to build your bench of subcontractors or partners, that is something that's going to be available very, very soon. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone. Really, thank you for taking time of your day. Thank you, Jamie, for everything that you shared today. And I wish you all a splendid rest of your day and a splendid rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Alfredo, for doing that. That's been my dream.
Amazing. All
Awesome.
right. Everyone have a wonderful day. And I hope to see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye all.